This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
All right, well, let's get to the Saturday night's main event review preview that's going to take place, well, now, but the actual event, as we know, takes place tomorrow night from Montreal. And if you're in attendance, let me know. I'd love to hear about your in-person experience. I do have some contacts up there, but I don't know if they're actually attending the event. If they are, great. And if you're new or if you're just a listener that's been part of the show forever and you are attending, let me know. All right. I'd love to get an in-person experience, perspective. I think it's important. So 3 matches. That's it. Am I mistaken? I actually had to check WWE's website, and things may change tonight because it's still one more show until the event tomorrow night. But 3 matches. This may be the smallest card I've ever seen in WWE history. I'm not being facetious about that. I'm serious. I don't know if I've ever seen 3 matches. I'm not complaining. It's a nice change of pace. And that's been the motto of Bruce Pritchard and Triple H about fewer matches, longer stories, easier to digest. And I do generally agree with that principle. So we're going to go through the matches. We're going to go through your emails. We might even have a couple of voicemails as well. We're going to go through all of that throughout the show. And so stay tuned. If you want to be a part of the show and you are interested in getting on the show, you can email us at mailbag@wwepodcast.com. So before we get there, though, I have a few shout outs for those that have joined us over the last week or so. We have Mega Man, Luis Gonzalez, I believe I remember you, and Carl Erich. Thank you, Carl, Luis, and Mega Man. Thank you guys for joining me on the Patreon side of things. And we do offer a week membership for free if you'd like to give us a try. But good time to do it because there's not only Saturday night's main event, but we're about to enter WrestleMania season full force in just about a week. Because believe it or not, there's also another PLE. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's relatively new. They've just come up with it in the last couple of weeks, really. It's called the Royal Rumble. Maybe I didn't pronounce that right. Hold on. Oh, sorry. Royal Rumble. So it sounds like a pretty cool concept regarding the matches and what they mean. I think there's 30 people in the men's and women's Royal Rumble matches. And the prize is something about WrestleMania. I'm not really completely sure about that. I'll have to dig into it. Maybe somebody can ask ChatGPT what the rules are. And I don't know. It sounds like a cool concept, but I don't know if this Royal Rumble PLE will actually stick. Sounds like kind of a fad, a one-off to me. And yes, I'm being a complete jerk because WWE has pushed this PLE aside in a way that I've never seen them do in my 30 years of watching wrestling. Never have I ever seen them push this PLE aside for, I don't even know what they're doing it for. It can't be Saturday night's main event. Saturday night's main event is almost the most inconsequential PLE of all time. And sure, there may be things we don't see coming, but based on the card and the fewest matches I've ever seen on a PLE card, that can't be the case. They cannot have told me and sell me on the fact that they have put aside the Royal Rumble, barely mentioned it over the last couple of weeks, just for not what we don't want to push aside Saturday night's main event. Oh no, I would. To me, Saturday night's main event would be a sideshow, and it should be all about the Royal Rumble. Why would it not be? Why would you not want it to be? Many people look at that as the best PLE of the year. So I don't get it. Now they have 1 week until the Royal Rumble, which is just stupid. I mean, I know that it sells itself. They can make that claim. That doesn't mean you just whole cloth ignore it. And that's essentially what they've done. And yes, this week it'll be all about Royal Rumble. There'll be faux battle royals and people knocking each other over the top rope, and the announcers will say, "Oh, if this happens on Saturday, they'll be eliminated." You know, the usual garbage, but it feels so rushed. I can't believe it's essentially 1 week of a build, and they've ignored it up until this point. Yes, you've had a few declinations of entering the Rumble, but it's been essentially a side project of WWE. Somebody needs to just shake it. Like, hey guys, you understand that the Rumble's not in like 3 or 4 weeks. It's in like a week. I don't understand it, but all right, maybe I'm being offended on behalf of people that don't even give a damn. But all right. So let's get to the card. Again, crazy small card, but that could change. If something's added to SmackDown, obviously I have not seen SmackDown, so we shall see. But the first matchup on the card tomorrow night is Randy Orton versus Trick Williams versus Damian Priest versus Sami Zayn. This is for the undisputed WWE title #1 contenders fatal 4-way match. So one fall to a finish. This is not an elimination match. So you have Randy, Trick, Damian, and Sami. The only two that could possibly come out of this in my mind is Sami or Randy. And given the fact that we have Drew McIntyre as champion, do they really want to go to Randy Orton versus Drew McIntyre? Or do they want to try to push Sami Zayn back into the main event, given the fact that they did tease it a little bit this past week with Drew and Sami having a confrontation, and Drew talking about the record Sami has against Drew, which is like 0-11 or something. He's undefeated against Sami Zayn in one-on-one competition. And they could certainly try to pull Sami into that and make this a fun Royal Rumble event with Sami versus Drew. But Randy Orton also makes a whole lot of sense, because he always makes a lot of sense because he's Randy Orton. He hasn't aged. He hasn't missed a step. If anything, he looks better than he's ever looked in his life. So, sure, Randy Orton could certainly be put in that position. Both are baby faces. Both make sense. You could also do a triple threat, although I wouldn't. My guess is Sami Zayn wins this. It's in Montreal. Randy Orton is not going to be the fan favorite here because of where we're at. I think Sami Zayn is a favorite to win, and he probably will. Now, this match, given the fact there's only 3 matches, is probably going to be somewhere in the ballpark of 25 minutes, and it deserves it, because this is a group that I don't believe we've ever seen in a 4-way match before. But you have Trick Williams, who is like an all-world athlete. You have Damian Priest, who always seems to over-deliver in big spots. Randy Orton, who, do I need to say more? Sami Zayn is a top worker as well. This is going to be an awesome match. I would be personally offended if this match is not awesome. And when I say awesome, I don't mean it by today's definition of, hey, kick out of every finish 7 times. That's not an awesome match to me. Building to the finish is an awesome match to me. False finishes that don't involve the finish are an awesome match to me. That's what's awesome. Psychology, pacing, all the rest. Everything except leaning on kicking out of finishes, which is an insane overuse today. And likely will be one of the crutches that these guys lean on. And I'm not criticizing them, because that's kind of what people do today, and they're following with what the crowd reacts to. I think it's still doing a larger amount of damage than good. But that said, when you come out of it and we're done with it, I think all of us are going to be like, damn, awesome. What I think is going to happen, Sami Zayn probably gets the pinfall over maybe Trick Williams. Although if they're trying to protect him and he's on the way up, might be Damian Priest, who is looking at the totem pole of where people are stacked right now. Damian Priest is probably on the bottom of this. So Sami probably pins Damian, protecting Randy, protecting Trick, and maybe Sami gets the benefit of an RKO and gets the victory over Priest that way. And Randy, you know what I mean? Like, he may be the benefactor of Randy hitting an RKO, not able to cover, 1, 2, 3, Sami wins. Something like that. But yeah, crowd's going to be super hot for Sami. All right, the women's tag team champions, Rhea Ripley and Io Sky, take on Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. So this match, I mean, I really don't have, I don't mean to say this in a, pouring cold water on this match before it even starts. I don't have high expectations for this match. And Liv is great. Rhea's great. I will say Io Sky. I mean, we all know who and what she is. When I say great, I don't mean this is going to be a botch fest by any stretch. But this match will probably be 12 to 14 minutes if I was to guess. But it should be okay. And do I expect new women's tag team champions? Is it possible? Well, I mean, you do have Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez who have really come onto the scene here as a tag team. And if they do win, I will say it would be a sign that Rhea Ripley is going to go back into the women's title picture. I would say if we're going to get new tag team champions, this is when it happens. And when I say that, I mean now or the Rumble, because if the Rumble features a women's tag team title match where Rhea Ripley and Io Sky are defending, they could do a title change there, but they're not going to do, I think, a title match, the women's tag team title match at the Rumble, because the Rumble is about the two Royal Rumble matches, which take up an hour and a half each. And then you have a championship match for the Undisputed Championship and usually for the world title. So there's almost no chance that this happens. And my point about this is Rhea and Io probably drop the belts here to Roxanne and Liv. Okay, let's get to Cody Rhodes taking on Jacob Fatu. Really not an interesting match. It's certainly, I don't think, is deserving of a PLE main event, given how quickly this thing built and that there doesn't seem to be a whole lot of natural chemistry here. This does not interest me very much. It's a setup for something bigger, a big return, maybe Roman Reigns, but even there, I think Roman Reigns is probably slated for a return at the Rumble, just like LA Knight, just like Chris Jericho and others. Bianca Belair will go through the Rumble next week, but I don't have a particular interest here in this one. Cody Rhodes is not the champion anymore. Jacob Fatu is still trying to find himself and really make a name for himself among the casual fan. We know he was a part of the Bloodline. He didn't work out with Solo. You could see him becoming a star. And the crowd gets behind him, he gets injured, and he comes back, and then it's like, oh, okay, he's facing Cody because he attacked Drew, but then Cody attacked him because he screwed him, whether it was intentional or not. It just, to me, does not really excite me for the main event of Saturday night's main event. But I think it's going to be a fine match, probably 16 minutes, 17 minutes, with Cody Rhodes probably going over, but Jacob Fatu is just returning, and you don't want to immediately bury him right off the bat. However, Cody Rhodes is WWE's golden boy, and do they want to make Cody Rhodes look like he's maybe not good enough to win this year's Royal Rumble? Now, there's something to be said for that, because the Rumble was only a week after that. So there's some cases to be made about who should win or who shouldn't. Honestly, it doesn't really matter, because this will all be erased at the Royal Rumble when they are likely. Cody Rhodes is in the Rumble. I don't know about Jacob Fatu, even if he's in it, he's not going to win it, right? But all right, kind of at least on the surface, a very underwhelming card for Saturday night's main event. I don't know if it's a sellout in Montreal. I didn't check the tickets, but let's check in with you guys. Before I do that, though, if you want to get rid of all the ads you've heard throughout the show, go to Patreon, patreon.com/WWE podcast to get rid of all of them, or go to Apple and click the subscribe button. So let's check in. Let's check in with Dennis. Dennis says, this is really quick, that Donald Trump has declared himself for the Royal Rumble. And there's an image you sent me of the Donald Trump and the WWE Royal Rumble logo. Possible. All you got to do, according to the rules, is just declare yourself. So, all right. I'm sure there's some people that would love to see Donald Trump in the Rumble and then actually get hurt, and others that would love to see him win. And kind of a controversial, of course, entry there. But thanks, Dennis. Also, he says, hope you're well. Happy New Year to you and your family. I sent you a few videos of the Raw at Belfast. Balor and Rhea got the biggest pops of the night. Punk was booed out of the building. I heard it didn't come across on TV that way. The crowd started chanting, "You are banned from Japan" at Logan Paul, just in case you couldn't make out what they were saying. Well, thank you for telling me that, because I didn't know what they were saying. Because the Belfast accent is very strong and can be hard to understand. I enjoyed the show. There was a great atmosphere. Styles versus Gunther at the Rumble with Styles' career on the line. Surely he isn't going to retire at the Rumble. It would be 10 years since he debuted. Thanks, Matt. Yeah, that's a great point. AJ Styles infamously debuts at the Rumble, number 2, after Roman Reigns, I believe, was number 1 in the 2016 Royal Rumble. We have AJ Styles at number 2, if I'm not mistaken. It could have been number 3, but I thought it was 2. He debuts early, and the crowd loses it. And since then, I mean, he's had more matches in WWE than in TNA and New Japan combined. He's had some 900 plus in WWE and 800 and change in all the other promotions combined. So he has been primarily, you can say, the majority of AJ's career has actually been with WWE, at least the majority of his matches. Crazy. And he has more than excelled here. But thank you for the in-person about what the crowd was chanting. I always have a hard time when they go overseas, and it's just because when I can't understand what the crowd's chanting, I mean, it is annoying, especially when it's loud and it's clear. But the accent is so heavy that even if you hear the chant very clearly, you still don't know what they're saying because of the accent. So thank you, Dennis. Appreciate it, and hope all is well on your end as well. Okay. Yes, but I did see the videos, so thank you. I do see that email with all of the videos, and I have checked them out. I appreciate that. All right, DJ. He says, did anyone get a chance to watch the new season of Unreal on Netflix? It seems like the Netflix is banking on having docuseries like this one on their platform to kind of give a behind-the-scenes point of view as to how decisions are made, especially in WWE. If Vince was still in charge, I don't think he would have agreed in having behind-the-scenes footage aired publicly for the world to see. In a sense, it takes away from the mystique of pro wrestling and breaks the proverbial third wall between what is character-based and what is real. They have had no fourth wall. I mean, I think you mean fourth wall, but I got you. They haven't had that fourth wall for a long time. It has been slowly eroding and has been gone for many years. The difference between the fourth wall not being there and this administration's management of WWE, when I say this administration, I'm referring to TKO and who they put in charge. The difference is this administration, and it sounds like I'm talking about the presidency again. I'm talking about TKO. This administration will do anything for money. Doesn't have a care in the world for any traditions in pro wrestling. And most importantly, reminds you all the time what you're watching isn't real. What you're watching is produced. Let's remind you during the show what you're watching and that it's not real. Let's talk about heels and babyfaces in opening promos to PLEs using heel and babyface language. It's absurd. That's the difference. While Vince McMahon's administration of running WWE did erode the fourth wall, they didn't remind you of it all the time. TKO, on the other hand, does. And they have no shame about it. They want to make sure you know it's not real and that the general population knows that they know it's not real, so nobody's insulting anyone's intelligence, which is just a really ridiculous concept because the whole premise behind pro wrestling is being able to try to believe and just bring yourself into the moment like any TV show, like any movie. But for some reason, they think maybe that there's some people out there that believe that they think pro wrestling's real. It gets very weird. But also the fact that this administration's management of WWE will do any and everything for money, putting advertisements on any and everything. The wrestler's gear is next. It's coming. So that's the difference. And which administration would I prefer? The McMahon administration. Yes. I know so many people villainize Vince McMahon. How terrible he was. He was senile. He didn't know what he was doing creatively. He's chaotic. And you know what? Some of those claims can be true. there is something called a concept called more than one thing can be true at once. You can be chaotic. You can be a little bit off the rails. You can be a little bit adversarial, but you can also be a genius. And Vince McMahon was all of those things. Was he a good human being as a person? I mean, that's up for debate. Vince let you see what he wanted you to see. Did he have the scandals that we all know about? I mean, we only know what we hear. Has anyone actually looked through the evidence? I'm guaranteeing that 99% of us have not. So you're only going what you hope is true about Vince and that you want to be true. You need to be true to villainize Vince McMahon, when the reality is that none of us would be here watching pro wrestling had it not been for Vince McMahon. So was he old and senile and a lot of times chaotic and storylines wouldn't make sense? Yes, absolutely. I'm not defending any horrible thing Vince did. I'm simply defending the fact that he at least had some scrap of respect left for kayfabe, a little bit of respect for only bringing cameras back when it was necessary and not exposing his own product every chance he got. So there is something to be said for Vince, despite what you think that maybe he's the Antichrist, and so many people do, and they want him to be this evil human being. They need him to be. But you can be two things at once. That's the thing. It's not a mutually exclusive club here. However, back to DJ's email. I'm not going to lie. Even though I don't have a Netflix account, the video clips from this season, new season of Unreal, is everywhere. And I took a look at some of the clips, including the backstage footage of Triple H speaking with LA Knight after Money in the Bank, in which apparently LA Knight did not follow through with the original plan, the booking decision of the match. Anyway, there are about like 5 episodes of this new season, and it seems like Unreal is going to be a regular fixture on Netflix for years to come because there's going to be a 3rd season coming this summer. I believe it. I mean, fans do want to see this. Even those that still want to believe wrestling is real. Again, they know it's not, but they want to believe because it keeps you emotionally attached to the product. Even those people will begrudgingly, I think, watch, and that's all they care about. They don't care about the reason you're watching or how you feel when you're watching, just that you're watching. That's it. It's all they care about. And I saw that clip too of LA Knight being kind of scolded regarding the finish, and Bruce Pritchard and Triple H backstage with their headsets on being annoyed about how the finish went. And yeah, I saw that too. I did not watch Unreal. And truth be told, will I ever get around to actually watching it? I mean, maybe. But that doesn't mean I'm going to ever agree with them doing it. Doesn't mean I'm ever going to agree with their concept of bringing cameras backstage, showing everybody everything all the time about how everything works. Because I have a lasting respect for wrestling that I think is not superseded by fans' interest or perceived interest in what's going on backstage. There used to be a little bit of mystery, right? Now there's not. But for all of those that love Unreal and think it's completely legitimate and all that, and I think a lot of it is, I've said this before, but it's an important point to be made here. WWE is still only allowing you to see what they want you to see. If you truly had an Unreal experience, if you really wanted a what's the word I'm looking for? A legitimate, a pure experience of Unreal, you would have mics on Triple H and his creative team at all times during their discussions, and they wouldn't know that they're even on them, right? You would somehow have a live stream of their conversations when it has to do with the creative, when they don't know it's on. Because they know when the cameras are on. They know when they have mics on. They know when cameras are there. So when cameras are there, you think they're not being careful with the language they're using? You think that they're not filtering themselves and curating what they want you to see about how things work? How do you know you're not seeing a version of reality only they want you to see about how things work? I know we're getting a little bit into the matrix here, layer upon layer, but you have to think about that. Everyone acts different when a camera's on them, and they know a camera's on them or a mic's on them, right? Everyone does. So I don't think that this show is scripted, right? I don't think this is just kind of like a dream within a dream, but it's not reality yet. I do believe that this is truly some of what happens, and what they say is probably very much real, but I do think that there is a lot of filtering going on the show because it's for international consumption. They are very careful with what they say and how they say it. Now, let me quickly mention, this is back to DJ, predictions for Saturday night's main event. It's 3 matches, and like you said, the fourth match, I would imagine they're going to bring a 4th match in tonight on SmackDown, but we'll see. So you're thinking Cody beats Jacob via disqualification, Rhea and Io retain the tag titles, and Randy Orton wins the Fatal 4-Way. Wow. Did I even pick a winner for Cody? I think I did. I think I said Cody as well. So I think we're only 1 out of 3 together there, DJ. But again, none of this really interests me. The best match by far on the card is the Fatal 4-Way. And even in that one, there's only 2 possibilities, and Randy's one of them. All right, DJ, signing off. Have a great weekend. Enjoy Saturday night main event from Montreal, Canada, and to all those expecting a ton of snow this weekend, like myself up here in New York City, be safe and stay home if need be. Yeah, but I think up here, they're saying 12 to 18 inches, which, I mean, to some of you who are listening in the South, if any of you are in the deep South, you're like, oh my God, that would cripple us for 3 months. Up here, I mean, roads are clear within like a few hours of the storm being over. I really don't understand the panic that ensues. We have snowplows, right? This isn't 1664. Like we have snowplows. Most of us have grocery stores within a 5-minute radius of our homes. And maybe you might be inconvenienced for a few hours if you have to clean off your driveway and you get plowed in. And yeah, that can be a pain in the neck. I get it. But I don't know where this generational panic that has not ever found a way to kind of come to grips with the reality of the conveniences we have today. It's just like this generational panic that has set in from the dawn of humanity. Oh my God, it's going to snow. We're going to be trapped in our homes. And a lot of times I'm sure that happened, right? Our ancestors didn't have access to any of these things and they were truly trapped. But hey, we have snowplows, we have shovels, we have salt. And don't you love if you guys live in a place that, or if you watch the news in your local area that doesn't get snow a lot, or even if you get snow a lot and you watch the news, every year without fail, they go to like a local hardware store and they talk to the manager and they're like, hey, so it's going to snow. You guys sold out of shovels? And the manager's always like, yeah, we sold out early today and snow blowers have been moving pretty well. And we don't have a whole lot of salt left. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, like what do you think the manager's going to say every year? And then the news anchors or you hear from your public officials, your governors, your whoever, they're talking about, well, stay home if you have to. Don't go. The roads are going to be hazardous. Yeah, like it's the most common sense, elementary, like obvious advice that anyone could give, and they give it to the same people multiple times a year all the time. And you might say, well, clearly they need it. Well, no, here's the thing. If you go out and you get in an accident, that's on you. Those people will weed themselves out and slip off the road or crash, and that's their fault, right? You can't stop that. Nature has a way of, what's it called, like natural selection, no pun intended. So I just, the same things happen every year as if we've never experienced snow ever in our lives. And I live in upstate New York. We average, I think, 60 to 70 inches of snow a year here. And every year you hear the same crap from our news stations. It's comical. It's comical. And they push this out as actual news reporting to talk to people who are pumping gas and at a grocery store. Like, you're not going to be trapped in your home. You don't live in Siberia, right? You live in modern America. You live in the modern world. Even if you don't live in America, you live in the modern world. You have a heated house, right? You have a home that has heat. Even if the power goes out, I mean, the power usually isn't out for more than like a day at worst case. I mean, it's just, I know I'm simplifying this and some of you are like, well, what about this and that? Like the vast majority of snowstorms all across North America, at least in the United States, some of them are big, some of them are small, but we've dealt with hundreds and hundreds of them through our lives. And yes, be safe. I mean, absolutely. Yes, if we need to stay home, we stay home, right, DJ? We do. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I'm venting my frustration about news reports on snow because it's stupid. I mean, I don't mind them reporting on it. And, you always have someone out in the field and they have a ruler with them. Oh, God. All right. We'll get to the Joe Hendry report in a moment. Let's see. I don't know if we have anything else. We do actually have another voicemail coming, though. We'll have to get to that momentarily. But as is tradition, we can just go right to the DJ Kuzmo Joe Hendry report.
This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag Show. Record you live on a Wednesday morning, and you know what time it is. It's time to
Say his name and he appears. I believe in Joe Hendry. I believe in Joe Hendry.
That's right, folks. Joe Hendry is his name as I take you to episode 80 of the Georgia Report. And like always, coming to you live from an undisclosed location. And like always, before I talk about Joe Hendry, let me talk to you about the continued collaborations with the NXT Invasion in TNA. However, this past episode of TNA Pro Wrestling was more than just a continued storyline of the NXT Invasion in TNA. This past episode of TNA Pro Wrestling was a groundbreaking new era moment due to the partnership with TNA and AMC that every Thursday night TNA Pro Wrestling will be live. And to kick off the ushering of a new era in TNA, this episode starts off with the OG TNA legend himself, the phenomenal AJ Styles. AJ Styles gets on the microphone as he hypes the crowd up by saying TNA is bigger, badder, and bolder than ever on AMC. AJ Styles calls the crowd the TNA Nation and he tells them to keep the energy high throughout the show, and then he led a chant in TNA, TNA, TNA. And by the way, we did not get an appearance of Gunther, so don't you worry, folks, because this was all about AJ Styles ushering a new era in TNA with TNA on AMC. However, there was a brief moment during this episode of TNA Pro Wrestling of AJ Styles interrupting the self-proclaimed king of TNA, Mr. Frankie Kazarian, as he was eyeing Frankie's TNA World title with a smile. Was that a tease of AJ Styles pursuing the TNA World Championship for one final time before he retires in 2026? I like those possibilities, and hopefully that will happen. Now to the Director of Authority, Mr. Santino Marella, as he seems to be in good spirits, even though he still feels hurt that his own daughter, Ariana Grace, betrayed him several weeks ago. However, since TNA is on AMC, Santino says that he cannot afford to make any mistakes, and doing what needs to be done for the benefit of TNA on AMC, Santino had to call on someone new to take charge to do the day-to-day operations of TNA with him. And this new authority figure that Santino Marella introduced was none other than Daria Ray, also known, if you remember her from WWE, she was known as Sonya Deville. Now she is called The Suit. Daria Ray comes to the ring and gives Santino a couple of compliments, but then, dun dun dun, Daria says the one thing this company doesn't need is Santino Marella. Daria throws shade on Santino's family due to the current crisis that he is having with his daughter, Ariana Grace. Daria goes on to say that TNA needs structure, discipline, and professionalism, and she declares that she will be the one to bring those three things to TNA. And speaking of bringing something to TNA, Daria introduces a new TNA signee to the women's knockout division, and that is Elenia Black, formerly known in NXT as Cora Jade. Now to the NXT Outlaws. We get a quick backstage segment of Ariana Grace and Stax as Ariana Grace revealed that she was indeed the mastermind behind the NXT Outlaws invading TNA. And I have to say, well, duh! I mentioned it a couple of weeks ago on the mailbag that Ariana Grace could be the mastermind behind the NXT invasion. Anyway, Ariana continues on by saying that Stax, her future husband, will handle anyone that her father throws at Stax and his TNA International Championship. Now I want to get to two match card changes in regards to TNA Genesis. The first one is regarding the X Division Champion in Leon Slater, and the second one is in regard to Dana Luna. And the very bizarre sequence is that both of these match cards, the changes was because of some sort of visa issue. Let's get to the first development, and that is due to Leon Slater having an issue with his visa, he won't be able to wrestle at TNA Genesis against Cedric Alexander for the X Division Championship. However, Mr. Santino Marella assures Cedric Alexander that he will get a title shot against Leon Slater on a later date. But at TNA Genesis, there will be a triple threat match, including Cedric Alexander and two other opponents. The first opponent is Moose, and the other opponent is none other than my guy, Joe Hendry. As soon as Santino said his name, Joe Hendry popped it up on Cedric's phone. Now, the second visa issue coincidence was that of Dana Luna not being able to wrestle at TNA Genesis against the current knockout champion in Li Ying Li, formerly known in WWE as Xia Li. Li said that she's a fighting champion, so she issued an open challenge for TNA Genesis. But then we get the appearance of Sol Roca and Zarya from NXT. However, Sol Roca volunteered for Zarya to get that title, so it will be Zarya signing the contract to make the match official that at TNA Genesis, it will be Li Ying Li versus Zarya for the TNA Knockouts title. NXT versus TNA. But just when you thought that the show was over, we now fast forward to the main event for the TNA World title of Frankie Kazarian, the champion, versus the challenger in Mike Santana. This match lasted 16 minutes and 51 seconds as now we have a new TNA World Champion in Mike Santana after delivering a devastating spin the block discus lariat to Frankie to get the victory. And like what I've been saying for several weeks, Mike Santana is now a two-time TNA World Champion as this episode of TNA Pro Wrestling on AMC comes to an end as the crowd is chanting TNA, TNA. But before I get to TNA Genesis, just stay with me folks, I know this is a very jam-packed episode of the Joe Hendry Report. I want to quickly mention a surprise, a TNA surprise on the previous episode of Friday Night SmackDown from London, England, in which during Carmelo Hayes' Open Challenge United States Championship match, Carmelo Hayes' mystery opponent was London's hometown boy and current X Division champion in Leon Slater. Yes, the same Leon Slater that had a visa issue. He cannot compete at TNA Genesis. He was the mystery opponent for Carmelo Hayes for the United States Championship. And this was Leon Slater's in-ring SmackDown debut. This match lasted 11 minutes and 44 seconds with Carmelo Hayes retaining the United States Championship after delivering a devastating cutter off the top turnbuckle to Leon Slater. That sequence looked absolutely nasty, but it was fun seeing Leon Slater on SmackDown, and hopefully this won't be the last time we see Leon Slater on SmackDown, because wait a minute, we are just 1 week away to the Rumble. Could Leon Slater make an appearance at the Royal Rumble with the X Division Championship? Let's see. And now, let's get to TNA Genesis from this past Saturday, January 17th, live from Garland in Dallas, Texas. And before I get to the TNA World title main event, which was actually a Texas death match because, of course, you're in Texas, let me quickly mention some quick results for some of the matches that I was focusing on. On the pre-show, we had Stax retain the TNA International title against Eric Young, Texas's own KJ Orso, and a YouTuber slash IWC personality in Mr. BDE. Now we also had in the Knockouts Championship of TNA's Li Ying Li versus NXT's Zarya, Li retained the TNA Knockouts title. Then we had in the aforementioned triple threat match that featured Cedric Alexander, Moose, and Joe Hendry, most specifically Joe Hendry of NXT. Not gonna lie, it's kind of weird to say NXT's Joe Hendry since he's been in TNA for a couple of years, but at the present time, Joe Hendry would get the victory after delivering a standing ovation chokeslam to Cedric Cedric Alexander. Now we arrive at the main event, a Texas death match of the champion Mike Santana versus the challenger, the self-proclaimed king of TNA, Mr. Frankie Kazarian. But hold on a minute, by order of the new TNA authority figure, Mrs. Daria Ray, aka Sonya Deville, she invited Nick Nemeth, formerly known as Dolph Ziggler, the current holder of the Call Your Shot trophy, to be the special guest referee. This match lasted 90 minutes and 13 seconds as once again, Mike Santana would get the victory over Frankie Kazarian after delivering the spin the block discus lariat to retain the TNA World title. But then we got some post-match shenanigans. Afterward, Nick Nemeth raises Santana's arm in victory. Nemeth quickly goes for the Danger Zone finisher to Mike Santana. Nick Nemeth wants to cash in his Call Your Shot trophy, but there was no ref at the moment to make the match official. While Nick Nemeth is waiting for a referee to arrive, Mike Santana hits the spin the block lariat on Nick Nemeth as TNA Genesis comes to an end with Mike Santana still your TNA World Champion. But back to Joe Hendry and his brief cameo at TNA Genesis. But if you always remember this, folks, if you remember to say his name, he might just randomly appear. And he appeared. Last night on NXT, we get the appearance of Joe Hendry in a brief backstage segment featuring Robert Stone and a young hotshot group called The Vanity Project that consists of Ricky Smokes, Brad Baylor, and the WWE Evolve champion Jackson Drake. We first see the Vanity Project backstage chatting with two female blondes. Then we get the appearance of Robert Stone, who informs Jackson Drake that he spoke to the general manager of NXT, Mrs. Ava Raine, and that next week Jackson Drake will be in a NXT Championship qualifying match against, say his name, Joe Hendry. Robert Stone said his name and he appeared. Joe Hendry randomly appeared right next to Ricky Smokes, as apparently Joe must have teleported because originally there was a female blonde right next to Ricky Smokes. Joe Hendry says, here in NXT, when you say his name, he appears and tells Vanity Project, you'll get used to it, guys. You'll get used to it. Joe goes on to say that he wants to get his hands on Tony D'Angelo to get some answers from last week. However, Joe Hendry switches his focus to the qualifying match next week by saying, I am not going to turn down the opportunity to be in that ladder match, compete for the NXT Championship. Then Joe points to Jackson Drake by saying, I'll see you next week. Meanwhile, Jackson Drake is confused by saying, where did Joe come from? And Ricky Smokes is confused by asking, where did the female blonde go? Ricky then asks the question, did I kiss Joe Hendry? Did I kiss Joe Hendry? But back to Joe Hendry. And it's official. Next week on NXT, it will be Joe Hendry versus Jackson Drake in an NXT Championship qualifying match. And always remember this, folks, if you continue to say their name in Thea Hale and Joe Hendry, they just might randomly appear. Always remember to believe, say his name. Always remember the words that Joe Hendry says anytime, any place, at any show. And most importantly, always remember to do this.
Wave your hands from side to side and say, oh, I believe in Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry is so prestigious.
Once again, this is your guy, DJ Kuzmo. Have a blessed week. Be kind to one another. Stay safe, my friends. Believe and peace.
All right, DJ. Good stuff. It seems like Joe Hendry is backtracking to NXT, chasing the NXT Championship, and that's cool. That's cool. I mean, perhaps they just don't have a creative plan for him moving forward. They just don't have something solid for him on the main roster. I'm not following what they're doing. I don't know why they have him in and out and in and out, and then he appears at the Rumble, and then he's Randy's opponent at WrestleMania and blending out. Now, like, I want them to just go forward, but clearly they have other plans or feel he's not ready yet, which they know apparently better than we do. But he's still having a great time in NXT, still kind of figuring himself out, right? He's still kind of figuring out who and what he is, how he wants to connect with the audience. I do think as fun as this music is and as fun as it is to say his name and he appears, and that's all really, that is good stuff. It needs to be deeper than that. He needs to find another connection, a different way, not just kind of your same old type of connection, same old way. It will get old quickly. But I think that eventually, yeah, he'll appear. I mean, the days of having NXT where they just feed talent to the main roster has seemingly stopped. And I could be totally just oblivious to this, and you know, you're more in tune, others are more in tune with NXT's farming system and retention and pushing up to the main roster who they maybe want to move up and all the rest. But it feels like they aren't just the NXT doesn't feel like a very, very much a pass through, a pit stop on the way to the main roster. And it still kind of is. At least that's the way that it was designed. But NXT is truly kind of its own third brand now, just living by itself. And Obafemi, who has seemingly outgrown NXT, I would think is going to be having his official debut on the main roster during the Rumble. He'll be a really fun entrant. He felt like he belonged. He's ready for the main roster. He had a great presence. So I would think he's ready, but I thought that with Joe Hendry, and here we are multiple years later. So for me, Obafemi, which is not a revelation to anyone, is probably the next big call-up to have a mainstay on the roster. Not these little one-offs that WWE seems to keep doing. So thank you, DJ. Stay safe in the snow. And let's get to, I think, one other voicemail. See who it is.
Hey, it's Kyle from Baltimore. I know it's been a while, but I wanted to talk about the situation with Becky and Maxine. Why is it still going on? I hope this is it. I'm sick of them going back and forth with each other. Now this thing with Natalya attacking Maxine, I'm not really all that interested in that at all. I'd rather them to move on, and I think they are going to. Now this thing with Roxanne and Liv being a tag team, going out after Rhea and Io, looking forward to that, but I'm watching this, I'm thinking to myself, the four of these women are single stars. Whereas I enjoy them as a team. I enjoy them as singles wrestlers. At the end of the day, same thing can be said with Alexa, and I don't care for Charlotte, but I mean, I like Alexa more, but there are single stars at the end of the day. I know they're trying to create this narrative that there's a tag team division, yet the women's championship is being held hostage, unfortunately, for Stephanie because she's hurt, and Jade as champion isn't working for me at all. So I just feel bad that Becky is not really doing what's going to be her role as the IC champion. Are they going to wait till the Royal Rumble for AJ Lee? I don't know. It's a lot there I said there, but I just feel like the women's division on both brands are kind of in a holding pattern because the majority of these women are in a tag team and who should be single stars going after singles gold or just personal issues between each other because of a grudge feud. But I don't know. This whole tag team narrative is really weird, but I'm glad to get an opportunity to do something, but it's just bizarre because some of these women should be single stars. But that's all I have to say. Thanks for the call. Bye.
Kyle, yeah, it has been a while. Hope you're doing well. Good stuff. And yes, you do have a lot there. I'm going to try to cherry pick a few things, or if I can remember it all, great. But let me go with what you got. First of all, Jade is champion. Yes, that's not working for me either. And I think nobody can look at this objectively and go, wow, this has been great for Jade. What a success. And she hasn't been champion that long, but she hasn't grown as a champion. She feels just kind of like she feels like somebody holding a belt that WWE is trying to have the belt make her instead of having her make the belt. And where I stand on that philosophy, I'm complete opposite when it comes to when someone should have a championship and when they shouldn't. But Jade doesn't feel like a champion. She looks like one, but doesn't feel like one. They don't trust her to cut promos. I've been all over that. And yeah, so Jade is not working. They aren't doing anything to try to expand her, or they're afraid. I think more than anything, they're afraid that if they give her more, maybe to expand her vocabulary and her promos, that she's going to be an embarrassment on TV. And you know what? She could be, but you got to try at some point or take the belt off her. You just have to. It does feel like the women's divisions, like the women as a whole in the company do feel like they're on a holding pattern. And to be fair, they have the Royal Rumble coming up, which I think will reset a lot of things and put different puzzle pieces into place that will make more sense moving forward for the Elimination Chamber and eventually WrestleMania. Because I believe, and I think I covered this last time, the only two PLEs after the Rumble, I think, are Chamber and WrestleMania. I don't think we have a Saturday Night Main Event inside of those those events. There's no roadblock or any kind of weird thing. There's roadblock, but I think it's NXT. There's no actual weird pit stop, which is like unheard of under this administration. So we'll see if they change their minds. They very well may. But that means they've got a lot of time to build for each event, Chamber and especially WrestleMania. I think Chamber to WrestleMania is like 6 weeks. So we'll see. But back to your point with Becky and Maxine. It does feel a little bit long in the tooth. And you're growing a little impatient. Well, the idea is here to build Maxine as a star and see what the fans truly feel for her. To see how deep the support runs. For Maxine, unfortunately, I don't think the fan support is as deep or as strong as they had hoped. Because otherwise she would still be champion. That doesn't mean she needs to go back to NXT. Doesn't mean she needs to get fired. It just means that she is not quite exactly where we thought she was. And that's fine. You got to kind of see where things are at. Take the temperature by having her hold the belt, push a little bit more, give her some more airtime, a little bit more character development, see where things go. And so far, I think, despite all of that, it's weird to say. It feels like an oxymoron that I'm going to completely negate everything I just said, but it also feels like a success because where she was to where she is now is still a success. Even if she's not as high as we kind of thought she was and got pushed down a peg or so, she's still at a level that it's promising for the future for Maxine. And having now Natalya being put into the mix, having her turn heel, I think is a nice wrinkle. That doesn't mean, though, that you're going to have Natalya versus Maxine versus Becky in a triple threat of some sort for the IC title. I think Becky Lynch is moving on. I do. I could be wrong, and we have Natty versus Maxine versus Becky for the IC title. I hope not. Because also then there's two heels and one lukewarm babyface in the match. Not too exciting. I think it's going to just be Maxine versus Natalya and in some kind of grudge match moving forward. And they have a nice little rivalry. And that'll be fine for Maxine. No title, less pressure, working with a grizzled vet. Yeah, I'm sure she's getting a lot of behind-the-scenes actual help from Natalya and the in-ring portion, the psychology, the pacing, everything else. How can you not learn from Natty, right? And having Nat and Natalya turn heel is also a nice little wrinkle in things because when's the last time Natalya did anything that was interesting at all? So I'm excited for her because she's actually in some kind of story that is probably going to be on just a one-off. And that's good. So while I kind of criticized, or I don't even criticism, more of just an observation of Maxine and where she's at in her career, taking a step back, not as champion, is not a bad thing. Also, Becky Lynch is objectively a bigger star. You're going to have Becky Lynch going into WrestleMania likely as Intercontinental Champion. I mean, I guess you could run back Maxine in a few months, but is that really where you want to go? I mean, maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see where Maxine is. But I think they're done for the time being. All right, that'll do it, everybody. Thank you to everyone. Thanks to the callers and the emailers. We had a fun show, and I hope you guys enjoy Saturday night's main event for whatever that's worth to you. We'll be back on Sunday with your week in review / review of Saturday night's main event, as well as Amanda's review of the of SmackDown tonight. That'll be published tomorrow, and the WWE main event show that is hosted every single week by Daniel from Australia. Check it out as well. So thank you, everybody. We'll be back on Sunday. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.